Another food that can actually help to improve serum levels of testosterone is one that most of you will be glad is on the list if you have a sweet tooth, and that is honey.
If you look into it, many testosterone boosting foods, so to speak, might work to some small capacity, but indirectly. They might be able to reduce inflammation. They might be able to help you in getting to sleep deeper and quicker. They might help you improve nutrient intake, maybe. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for RP Strength, and today we're going to talk about the one magic food that'll boost your testosterone levels 3 quadrillion %. That's right, you might be made entirely of only the testosterone molecule, rendering you functionless and really looking just like a pile of yellow fat. What testosterone really looks like? No, I said this all wrong. It turns out that there is no one critical food you must eat that'll boost your test by 11 trillion %, or whatever viral influencer marketing says nowadays. But there's lots to learn about what we can really do to boost our testosterone. So, quick, what does having higher testosterone get you? Increased muscle mass and strength, enhanced recovery from training and physical exertion, which is dope because then you can go harder and get even more increased muscle mass and strength, improved sex drive and sexual function. One of those I have in spades, the other I am physiologically incapable of. Guess which one it is in the comments. Higher energy levels and reduced fatigue, and actually a bit more of joie de vivre, joy of life, as the French always like to say, with a cigarette in hand, because you don't want your testosterone level too high. No, Scott's a video guy. Excessively high testosterone make you have, how you say in American, lifted truck with V12, baldy old tattoo, and something about Elon Musk. Too much America. Scott, what's the best thing about France?
Nuclear power.
Yeah, they do have a lot of nukes. That's fucking sweet. What about French girls with outfits that aren't revealing, but at the same time when they turn a certain way are like, that's audacious because parts of you are coming out?
Yeah, and smoking cigarettes as well.
Oh, they're all smoking. It's so hot. But like not really when you make out with them because that's gross. But the idea is hot. So hot. In any case, where the hell were we? To that point, testosterone also can give you greater confidence, assertiveness, and competitive drive, which is dope and especially helps in the gym when you're tired and the weights are bearing down on you. You got to nut up and do your thing. So high testosterone not only makes you feel better, perform better, but it gives you better results in the gym. And that's dope. So you want to have testosterone levels that at the very least are not low. And to that point, we have to ask the question of like, what is the natural range of testosterone that most young males fall into, or most males in general? And how much leeway do kind of the various variables have on what your testosterone level can actually end up? So check this out. The normal range is typically between 300 and 1,000 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone. Varies a little bit by the lab. Definitely varies a lot by individuals. Most people are going to be somewhere between 300 and 1,000. If you're over 1,000, you're considered exceptionally high testosterone. It's quite rare. If you're under 300, you often have symptoms of hypogonadism and low testosterone and are a candidate for testosterone replacement therapy. But in the middle of that range, there are somewhere between 300 and 1,000. Most people feel hunky-dory. Now, lifestyle factors, diet, sleep, training, stress, can shift your testosterone levels usually by only about 100 to 300 nanograms per deciliter. Now, let me put this in perspective. If you have a shift of 100 from 600 to 500 or from 600 to 700, you're really going to basically not be able to tell either in acute how you feel or long-term results. It's just wash away. It's too small a change. However, if you have a decrease from insufficient lifestyle or dietary variables, let's say, or too much stress, from your typical 400 nanograms per deciliter, but it's a 300 nanogram decrease, now you're at 100 and you're shooting blanks. Not literally, don't go out there having fun with people without condoms. Even if you have low testosterone, you can arguably still father a child. At least that's what my father, Jared Feather, told me. That's right. He's my dad. Something I've been really shy about saying to you guys. IFBB Pro Jared Feather is my biological father, and that's the end. But walking around with 100 nanograms per deciliter just ain't it, as the kids say nowadays. And it's going to lead to significantly worse acute feeling of how you're doing, definitely sex drive stuff in almost all cases, and for sure long-term getting you jacked and lean and shredded and strong results. I mean, 400 versus 100 is a different kind of life. And so lifestyle factors can absolutely influence your test levels such that they have, in the natural range, meaningful differences in outcomes. So we have to be concerned with them, and we have to ask the question, like, okay, are there any specific foods that we can eat or maybe ways we can eat which optimize testosterone level? We'll get to that in a bit. Now, here's the thing. The biggest factor in this is genetics. Some people just exist at 950 nanograms per deciliter, and they don't sleep super well, and they have lots of stress, and if they ever clean up their lives, they're at 1200. Some people, they're rocking at 250 normally, and if they optimize everything, they're at 299. And that's kind of the best they get with optimization, short of testosterone replacement therapy, which is injecting testosterone on taking pills, and then it's all fake anyway, which can happen, but is a totally different thing. No more natural stuff. That being said, people also have different sensitivities to testosterone, especially in various receptors of their bodies. So if the receptors in your hair follicles are very sensitive, you could have very low testosterone, but be growing hair out of your face like me. If your receptors are very insensitive, you could be rocking steroid doses and just have like never need to shave because you just don't need to shave, that sort of thing. I think Jay Cutler is on record as saying that only in like his late 30s or something did he even have to start shaving a whole lot for bodybuilding. Normally he just wouldn't grow a lot of body hair and just minimal cleanup, and he's out the show. He's taking a lot of testosterone, so different strokes. And of course the same thing applies to every other organ system, including muscle tissue. So some people look like they have incredible genetics, and you're like, dude, what's your testosterone? I got it tested. It's actually like 300. It's right around 300, which is apparently at the bottom end, but boy, oh boy, they're so sensitive to testosterone in the muscles that even that much is getting them blown up. Whereas other people walking around with 900, but they're not jacked even though they're trying because their receptor sensitivity for testosterone in muscle tissue is very low. So testosterone isn't a one-to-one to muscle because there's lots of other factors at play like these, but genetics is a big deal. Genetics is a huge, huge deal. And you can modify the expression of your genetics with lifestyle factors such as the foods that you eat. Another thing is that even high-end testosterone levels of like 1,000 or close do not compare to steroid levels. If you're taking exogenous steroids, then oftentimes you will have testosterone serum concentrations measured in the thousands, plural, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 plus nanograms per deciliter. So if you optimize your testosterone and now you're at 900, don't you go walking around waiting for steroid gains to come in. There's not an amount of raw honey or only egg yolks you can eat that's going to get you to Ronnie Coleman levels of testosterone. It's just not going to happen. Just for realism, now, not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Though Debbie Downer is also a great nickname for a woman of reproductive age that insists on giving fellatio to many of the men she meets. Isn't that right, Scott?
Good, I like it.
Yeah. Debbie Downer. Not such a downer, really. It just goes down a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why we're not a family channel. The thing to know about testosterone is that outcomes and symptoms matter more than actual numbers. If your gym training is good and you feel great, strong, aggressive, all that other male stuff, I mean, you can get your shit tested. And if it comes back as like 300, maybe you can optimize it. But if you're already sleeping well and eating right, we'll get to what that means in just a sec, then you're not really having any trouble. So you're good to go. But if someone's like, hey, you scored 300, which is in the normal range, even 350, let's say, but you just have zero libido, zero sexual performance ability or very close, and your energy sucks, your recovery sucks, your muscles just, it's just hard to train hard. You just don't have that oomph you used to, then you might be a candidate for testosterone replacement to get you into the high end of the range because the low end is just not good for you. So what I would say is this, if you have to ask the question of, is my testosterone really as high as I think it is? It seems pretty high. Then really just keep going. You're probably good to go. There's not even a need to ask that question, but you've got some problems that sound like low testosterone. Maybe that's something to look into. However, if you're just trying to make awesome natty gains and you want to optimize your testosterone natural production, it's a good thing to be concerned with the kinds of foods you're eating and sleep and so on and so forth. So back to the food situation. This video is ostensibly titled something like, the myth that like a single food can boost your testosterone. What is the problem exactly with this idea? The biggest problem is that it just doesn't happen, right? It's like, when my dad promised, here's why I didn't like how my dad behaved at my 5-year-old birthday party. He didn't show up ever again. He left a note. I was too ugly as a child and not smart enough. So he was like, I have another family out in the country that I'm raising because they're better than you. And it's your fault, Mike, that you were born like this. It took me many seconds of therapy to recover from it, but here I am. I'm good, right, Scott?
You're great.
See? Scott's my real father figure. On a serious note, there is no food that can significantly boost your testosterone on its own. It's just not a thing that exists. And there's not really a mechanism for it to exist either. So you can just dump that right away. So anytime someone tells you XYZ food boosts testosterone by blah, blah percent, it's almost certainly, they're not certainly because we're scientifically minded, almost certainly nonsense. But long-term dietary patterns do matter. And if you look into it, many testosterone boosting foods, so to speak, might work to some small capacity, but indirectly. A lot of these foods might have properties that if you consume plenty of them or that type of food in the long term, they might be able to reduce inflammation. They might be able to help you in getting to sleep deeper and quicker. They might help you improve nutrient intake, maybe. And some of those things can result in a boost on testosterone. For example, someone can say, you got to eat butter and eggs to boost your testosterone. But the reality is you just need dietary fat that can come from almost any source. It's not the butter and eggs themselves doing it. It's the fact that it's the dietary fat. Once your dietary fat's high enough, that indirectly signals normal testosterone production to resume if the dietary fats were lower. It's not literally true to say that something inside of butter that you eat just goes right to your body and just magically turns into testosterone. You could say it's the cholesterol, but how much cholesterol you take in has only a very weak correlation to your serum cholesterol. Your body makes most of the cholesterol that it needs anyway. So the T-boosting foods thing just kind of falls apart at a bunch of different levels. If you over-index on single foods, you can cause some kind of nutritional imbalances if you just eat a lot of this kind of food and not a whole lot of anything else. That's not very likely, but much more likely you'll just have this regret vibe of why the hell did I just suck down gallons of raw honey again for the past 3 months because V-Shred told me in a 30-second ad that raw honey boosts testosterone. And I just simply didn't have the money to afford his almost free pop quiz about your physique so I could get scammed up my ass even more. But here I am with the honey and I just feel like a chump. So that's probably the number one reason in my book not to eat foods that boost your testosterone because they don't real and you'll just be like, damn it, it's 80 kiwis later. I just feel like I feel like a tropical fruit. Kiwis are quite nice. Scott, what do you think about kiwis? Does the hair throw you off?
I think they're delicious. It's just tough to get a good and ripe one. Sometimes they're hard and sour. But a good kiwi's goated.
I love the hard and sour ones.
Oh yeah, you would.
I would.
Hard peaches too.
Hard peaches, legit fudge, real hard. I've seen a hard peach at the club with 3 women, all of them you could see were getting it. My boy was out there spending. He would just grind up on a couple of these hoes and they're like, and then he was throwing hundreds just to the wind. He didn't care. Someone tried to punch him in the face, broke his hand because the peach was so hard. And the peach he wasn't even worried about it. He got hit in the head. He turned around. The guy's like, my arm. And the peach was like, yeah, what up, big pimp? And he just turns around. He keeps grinding on these just street nasty, just bimbos, bro. He's out there. But even eating a ton of hard peaches does not raise your testosterone level, unfortunately. It turns out that we do know what influences your testosterone level in the realm of foods. And it really comes down, and I'll be more specific in a second, about overall caloric intake and macronutrient balance proteins to carbs to fats than any specific food. And the biggest dietary factors really are avoiding extreme caloric deficits, getting enough fats, and staying healthy overall. If you just aren't on a psychotic diet where you're under 2,000 calories per day, if you have a sufficient amount of fats in your diet and you're pretty healthy overall and not under recovered like crazy, you're going to have very close to the identical testosterone that you would have with any other modifier, when you magic foods or any other kind of stuff that you want to use. So that's really the deal on testosterone. So what kind of food stuff in depth actually matters for high testosterone? First, sufficient total calories. You can be in a caloric deficit that's mild for a short time and see almost no reduction, if not zero reduction in testosterone. If you're very overfat, super high body weight, very overweight, a caloric reduction makes you so much healthier and reduces your body fat so much, it actually boosts your test. But if you're in pretty good shape and you want to get shredded, anywhere from good shape to shredded is just like a linear slope of decaying testosterone levels, pretty much. So if you're going to do a diet, don't have massive deficits. Don't take your diet out to 18 weeks. If you have to do that for a natural bodybuilding prep, you're going to be like almost all natural bodybuilders, which is to say quite low in your testosterone production by the time the show hits. Another one is dietary fat. A lot of pro bodybuilders eat diets for prep that are very low in fat. And there's a reason that they can get away with that. There's a reason it's actually more optimal for them. They don't need to make testosterone big pimps and pimpettes out there listening to this. That's what the vial and the needle are for. That's what steroids do, is they just put a molecule, either exactly testosterone or very much like it, the other anabolic androgenic steroids, they put it in, and your balls don't really do a whole lot at that point. They're just like prayer hands and they don't do shit. And then so those guys don't have to worry about it. But if you're drug-free, which almost all of you watching the channel are, and me too, right, fellas? Right? Anyone? Okay. If you're drug-free, then making sure that if you're cutting your calories, never getting your fats to below like 20% of your total calories is a real extra careful buffer zone. That means if you're like 200 pounds on average, let's say, then you're eating 80 to 120 grams of fat per day is probably a good range to try to optimize testosterone. And if you're on a caloric deficit, you have to remove some food, you don't want to cut carbs too much for reasons I'll tell you in just a second, then maybe pulling out some of the fats is okay, but not getting for sure below 60 grams per day for a 200-pound person and 45 grams per day for a 150-pound person, for example, but maybe considering not even getting below 80 and something like 55 or 60 respectively for a 200-pound or 150-pound person. So keeping the fats in there in a big way that you don't see with typical standard bro diets the bodybuilders use is critical for the natural trainee to maintain their testosterone levels. Some individual responses there. So you can have some folks that like anything below 120 grams of fat per day, their testosterone's no good. Some other folks can get down to 40 grams per day and still be, rock solid. I was going to say rock hard, but that would also be true. So a lot of variation. So play with it yourself. Just understand, don't crank your calories too low and keep your fats high enough to be able to get all the telltale signs your testosterone is still pretty good. Another core feature of the diet, adequate protein for muscle retention, metabolic health. There's maybe a feedback mechanism there with testosterone as well. Adequate protein's not really a concern for almost any of you guys watching because kind of sort of know that you need to get protein to do Mr. Buff Guy stuff, fitness stuff that we do here. So definitely getting enough protein, but almost no one ever says that. And that's probably for the best because everyone kind of knows protein's kind of great for everything. So protein's in there too. Why is that important? Because the next point is that a balanced carbohydrate intake is also critical. Low carb diets can reduce testosterone, especially if they cause chronic stress, which a lot of low carb diets, the stress of low carb dieting is stress, and definitely when paired with excessive caloric restriction. But if you cut your carbs by a lot, many people don't experience a decline of testosterone, but many people do. So the ultimate macronutrient guide to testosterone is this: eat plenty of proteins, eat plenty of carbs, eat plenty of fats. If you want to cut your calories to lose some weight, cut your carbs a bit, cut your fats a bit. Don't cut hard, because if you cut your carbs more than a bit and fats more than a bit, the total deficit's what's going to kill you, and individually not having enough carbs and not having enough fats. So really, a balanced diet in which you're not starving yourself is the critical thing for testosterone to be at its optimal healthy range. hands down. That's the most important thing as far as diet is concerned. There are a couple of micronutrients which at normal levels can make sure testosterone's A-okay. At excessively high levels, they don't add anything and then can be potentially a little bit low-key toxic. Zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and enough omega-3s. So if you're taking some DHA, EPA essential fats, maybe some fish oils, if you're taking a vitamin D supplement, a magnesium supplement, and zinc supplements, and maybe just eating a really good diet of plenty of meats and eggs and green veggies and stuff that have all those kinds of foods, spend some time in the sun, that sort of thing, point your butthole to the sun. Scott, does butthole get us demonetized?
No, I think that one's good.
Hey. I could say all kinds of things about the butthole that the content would get us demonetized.
Yes.
Okay, I won't. But I'm thinking them. I'm thinking them, and you're thinking them now too. That's right, that nasty stuff. Yeah, with a spoon. Oh yeah, you're sick for thinking that. By the way, good God, don't you have a family? In any case, that's the big stuff. So if you want to supplement with zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3s to make sure your levels are A-okay, that could be a really good insurance policy to add in to having a sensible diet of enough protein, enough carbs, enough fats, and not crazy low calories when you enter a deficit. The idea with testosterone and diet especially, it can be summed up like this, and I'm trying to swear less on the channel because they just list us as, what is it, NC-17, Scott?
Yes,
they age restrict us if I swear, so I'm going to be doing some low-key stealth swearing. The idea with testosterone and food is there's more to fudge up than there is to optimize. If you ask me like, hey, how do I optimize my diet for testosterone? The answer to that question is just don't screw anything up. Don't take in way too few calories, too little protein, too little carbs, too little fats, or not enough micronutrients. And if you get all that stuff, they're like, okay, now what do I do to optimize? Like, well, you're basically there, man. That's pretty much all the effect food really has on testosterone in any way that's either measurable or, even if measurable, just in any way impactful to real world physique and feeling and strength results. So that's how that works. It's not from finding the perfect foods which don't exist. There was one exception to this that I have to put in this video. So pay attention. One exception. There is absolutely one food that can boost your testosterone significantly to close to steroid levels. It is the Turkmenistani quail egg. Found, believe it or not, in Turkmenistan. And unfortunately, it's a dictatorship, and they keep the eggs and the quails that make the eggs under strict, tight security lockdown at all times, which sucks. So give that some thought. Those foods do exist, so this whole video is a lie. It's not a myth. Turkmenistani quail eggs are real. But in conclusion, don't cut out nutrients. Eat your veggies. Another one actually, and we've either posted it before or we'll post it in the future. We have all sorts of tips on how to boost your testosterone other ways, because diet's not the only one. There's tons of other factors. One of them, getting laid regularly actually keeps you at healthier testosterone levels than not. Yeah. And no, J and the own D does not have the same effect. I know y'all motherfuckers was going to ask that shit. No, sorry. I've been doing plenty of that. Look at me. I had nothing. I had to shoot this stuff artificially. I think crying yourself to sleep alone at night might also help, but maybe that's just me justifying my, Scott, would you call it a habit or a lifestyle? Addiction. I can't go to sleep without crying. It's cathartic, you guys. Train hard. Rest just as hard as you train. Don't cut out any nutrients. Keep your calories sensible. Proteins, carbs, and fats in a rough balance. Eat plenty of veggies. Consider supplementing with zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3s. And your test levels will be just about as good as they can get naturally, as long as your stress and sleep and all that other stuff in order. That's for another video. Now, the only alternative to this is you could just do like an Ocean's 13 style heist into Turkmenistan to get some of those quail eggs, but good luck. No one's ever survived. And I made a note to myself to say something in the Turkmen language, which my dad actually speaks a little bit because he was actually born in Tadren in Turkmenistan, and I've actually been to Ashgabat. It was a fine place in 1990. What is it? Gurush Yenchak. And I'm sure you guys say it better than I do, but peace, big homies.